Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Amateur Hour Sports for the Raptors Happy Hour live stream here for Wednesday, October 22nd. Wednesday. Always good for the midweek happy hour to give you a boost through the week. And hey, it's a big day today, of course. At the time that we are live here, the Toronto Raptors get their NBA season started tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. Super excited for the NBA season to kick off for the Raptors. Super excited for the NBA to be back in general. We had a couple of games last night. I was able to catch all of the Houston Rockets and Oklahoma City Thunder game, and man, what a game it was. Fantastic way to bring back the NBA season in the end. The Thunder get over the line with a couple of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander free throws. Hey, had to be the free throws. But in all seriousness, I absolutely cooked KD on that last play of the game. So that was crazy. Also, Thunder should have had 2 free throws when Kevin Durant called a timeout when they didn't have any timeouts. I'm so familiar with that timeout rule. If you call a timeout and you don't have any timeouts left, it's a technical foul, actually. And the reason I know this is because in the Game 6 of the 2019 NBA Finals, when the Raptors were playing the Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry missed a shot. There was a big kind of mash for the rebound with a few seconds left in the clock, and Draymond Green called a timeout, and the Warriors didn't have any timeouts, which was a technical, and therefore the Raptors got free throws. So that should have happened in that game. It didn't. Anyways, the Thunder... Oh, I'm a little loud. Sorry. Let's turn that down. The Thunder did, in the end, get over the line, and it was a great game. Great game. You're not going to see many games better than that throughout the NBA season, so fun start to the season. As for myself, unfortunately, I am unable to do the watch-along tonight. I told you guys that was a possibility, and unfortunately, that is going to be the case for tonight. As for the streaming schedule coming up, I'm live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time for the Raptors Happy Hour. You can catch this right here on Amateur Sports with slight name variation, which I'll touch on in just a second as well. And I do videos throughout the week, and I'm live for as many Raptors games as I can. Unfortunately, can't do tonight. As for Friday's game, this is what I want to touch on with the stream schedule. The Raptors are playing at 6:30 because they're moving up for the World Series game. Now, it's game 1 of the World Series in Toronto. I unfortunately really want to watch that. So I think what I'll do is I will go live for the start of the game at least, see how I'm feeling when it comes to first pitch in the World Series. I may sign off a little bit early, but I don't want to miss too many games, so I'll be back for that. Sunday, the Raptors play again. Unfortunately, my life is just really getting in the way of the Raptors right now, but unfortunately, I'm at a family dinner, which has been planned for a while, and I have to be there. I'll be live Monday in its entirety for the Raptors against the Spurs, and then I will unfortunately miss the Wednesday game again. So the first 5 games of the seasons are going to be spotty. Hopefully I can bring in some consistency after that, but bear with me for the first 5 games of the season, y'all. And I appreciate the patience in this time because I really do want to stream these games. It's just World Series, it's family stuff on rough days, and it's Wednesdays I play soccer, and we're getting to the playoffs, and we have important games, so I don't want to miss these games. So anyways, I apologize for that, but you'll get me at the 5 p.m. slot for Monday, Wednesday, Friday still. Thank you for joining me today. If you guys want to see all this content, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you drop a like to support this stream, help drive us up in the YouTube algorithm. Let's say what's up to the people in the chat before we talk about anything here. We have Andrew in the chat, Jacob Sports. Thank you so much. I did change the name of the channel, as you guys saw. Fuck your feelings. How are you? I'm doing well. Solid day today. Feeling good. NBA's back. Yeah. The Jays are in the World Series. I just got my World Series hat an hour ago. I was at the Blue Jays shop at the Rogers Center an hour ago to go grab the hat. As soon as the Blue Jays won, I saw them bust out these hats. I went, oh yeah, I need one of those. And at my earliest convenience, I jetted out there on my bike and rode over and got myself one of the hats. I'm happy. And OG joining us as well, alongside our 12-month member, Gregory. Thank you so much for joining us, Gregory, and thank you so much for being a member. Snack smoothie, as we do. I missed my snack time while I was at the Rogers Center. Nick Killer, another one of our 12 members joining us. Thank you so much. let's see what some of the people. Or let's read some of the chat here. So, Greg said apparently this channel is now sponsored by some entity called Jacob Gramegna. Has this the approval of the board, and has this been vetted of any possible Kawhi connect? So, as you may have noticed, there's a change to the name of the channel. There's also a change to the picture on the channel. So what happened yesterday was I've been for a very long time. I've thought about changing the name of the channel. I don't think I've ever quite been completely like 100% happy with the name of the channel. I love all the branding and like the logos and stuff. So I want to keep Amateur Hour going as the content. The content is Amateur Hour Sports because that's what that's how we built this thing. But yesterday I got asked to appear on another channel. I was live with Kyle Kerms of the Sauce Network yesterday talking some NBA, and this probably like pushed me to over the edge, I guess, so to speak, in making the change that I made. And I just like I think about, I mean, I'll be strapped. Like, these are the things I think about. What does it look like for a brand who may think about sponsoring the channel, for example, when they see Amateur Hour Sports? I know it's not exactly the most professional looking name, you know what I mean? Anyways, if you want to catch the stream I was on yesterday, catch me on this stream with Kyle Kerms. So I thought about that first of all. I also thought about what would this look like for somebody like asking to do a collab. So I got asked to do this collab by somebody who knew me outside of this channel. They didn't know that this channel existed. They knew me from my other work on YouTube. If you guys don't know, my full-time job is also in the realm of sports media, and I do sports betting content as my full-time job as a producer. So that's where this individual knew me from. So when I sent over, like, I was gonna send over my channel to do the collab, and I just thought to myself, like, it's time. It's time, because like it just doesn't look. It doesn't give off the vibe I want it to give off. I think is the best way to put it. So this is the start of a transition. The content is still going to be Amateur Hour Sports. I am not going to be giving up the AH branding. That is me. That is Amateur Hour Sports. But the channel, the transition will take place towards this becoming my channel, essentially. The Jacob Gramegna channel. The Amateur Hour Sports on the Jacob Gramegna channel. Because I think it's a lot more professional. I think it gives it a lot more... I think it looks a lot cleaner for any potential brands that want to be represented by myself. And I think it looks a lot cleaner for any sort of collaborations that take place for myself on other channels. So that is the reasoning behind the change. That's why I did it. So in the meantime, it's going to be called Jacob Gramegna Amateur Hour Sports. But definitely at some point, it's going to become just Jacob Gramegna. This is just kind of a transition phase. But I do expect to keep the banner of the channel as Amateur Hour Sport, because I do want to keep that in place. I still have the Amateur Hour Sports merch, which you can still pick up. And Amateur Hour Sports is still going to live on. Amateur Hour Sports is still going to be a part of this. So that's not going away. It's just I want the outward-facing image of the channel to be myself more so than Amateur Hour Sports for the reasons that I described. If you want to catch my other content that I do with work, I host a show twice a week on the Circles Off channel. I'm the host on Mondays at 1 p.m. That show is live. I'm also a host on a pre-recorded version of that show, which goes up Friday, 8 a.m. live. Not this Friday, because we took this Friday off to do something else. But you'll see me frequently hosting on that channel there. That's where I am a part of work. Also with work, I am producer, so I sometimes chat a little bit and feature on a show that goes live every 12 p.m. Eastern time on our main channel at work, The Hammer. And the show is called The Hammer Daily. You can catch me. You can see me there a little bit as well. But we do great content with my company, The Hammer. You can check out all of my stuff there. And yeah, that's enough about me. A lot about me. Let's talk about Toronto sports. That's what we're here to do. Rundown for the show today. We've gone through my collab with Kyle Kerms plus the name of the channel. Let's talk about some sports. I want to talk about the Blue Jays, obviously that historic Game 7 victory. Let's talk about the Raptors. I want to go through a little bit of what I think the Raptors, the standings will look like at the end of the season, and I have some examples that I got from just NBA media in general, what the sentiment is, I suppose, around the Raptors, what people expect out of the team this season. We're going to talk about who the Raptors may possibly trade this season, who could be trade candidates for the team this season as we progress through. And then to end off the show, I'll give you a little bit of a pregame for their game against the Atlanta Hawks. The reason we're going to save that for the end of the show is that for people who are watching this back after the fact, it'd be a bit weird to watch a pregame for a game that has already happened. So we're going to save that for the end of the show for that type of audience. So if you're watching live, you want the pregame, make sure you do stick around until the end of the stream today. And if you're watching after the fact, you can see how right or wrong I was about the game. So we'll get into it. We have Winner One joining us, always ever present with the channel. Thank you so much for hanging out. Raptors basketball's back, yes sir. And Blue Jays World Series, yes indeed. Again, got my hat today. This hat's pretty nice. I don't have a hat that has like the stitching. Ooh, that has like the stitching up here, but this one there, it's a better kind of look. And I really like the shaping of it. And I like the brown at the back, league champs. Yeah, it feels good. Even if they lose this series, I'll still be happy about it. But where were you guys? Where were you guys when you saw the home run, the George Springer home run? Fuck your feelings says, is it safe to say you make a living off YouTube? I do not. I make a living off of the salary I make at my job, in which we do primarily YouTube content. But I don't see any of the revenue directly. I don't directly see the revenue that comes from those channels. I'm an employee with a company called the Hammerbed Network, where we produce YouTube-style content. Amateur Sports, or the Jacob Gramegna Amateur Sports channel, this YouTube channel that you're watching on right now, is first and foremost, it is a passion and a hobby. Secondary, it is a secondary form of income. But first and foremost, this is stuff that I like to do, and I really enjoy chatting with you guys and making Toronto Raptors content. Spartan Thorns says I was literally taking a dump, so I didn't see it live. That's ridiculous. I mean, with all due respect, that is just ridiculous. Because, like, I can see, you gotta go in between innings. First of all, I would say you should have held it until Seattle were at the plate. Because, like, the Jays were down 3-1. Like, you had missed more Seattle runs that wouldn't have mattered. But with the Jays up at the plate, you could have possibly seen a comeback. Then second of all, like, if you had gone in between innings, you would have known that IKF and Addison was it Barger and Isaac Kenner-Falefa that were on base at the time? And yeah, and then Jimenez bunted to get them to I think it was Barger anyways. But, like, you would have known that those two were on base. So you should have, like, hurried up, knowing that George Springer's at the plate with 2 runners in scoring position to tie the game. So I think you messed up. Also, we have technology. I don't know, like, it's the World Series game. It's ALCS Game 7, find it on your phone and watch it from the toilet. There's so much you could have done to avoid missing that. Anyways, I was at what is this? I ironically was eating tacos. All right, say no more. Anyways, I was at a local brewery in Toronto that I like. I was at Left Field Brewery in Toronto to watch, and it was packed house. I was with some friends. It was loud in there, and man, when that as soon as the ball left that bat, everyone was up on their feet, like willing it, go, willing that ball to get over the fence, and absolutely erupted when it did, and absolutely erupted when they got that final strike on Julio Rodriguez, who had a big series there. Hoffman threw him the old 6 straight sliders to get the strikeout on that plate appearance. I thought that was really funny. Just kept going back to the well, kept getting into chase. And hey, shout out to Alejandro Kirk, who squeezed. Actually, I didn't realize it at the time, but I want to give Kirk his flowers here because the final strike got fouled off and he squeezed it to get the last out. Anyways, just wow. I mean, one of the greatest experiences of my life watching that Game 7. It's special. I said before Game 7 when I was live live here with you guys, I said like whatever happens, you got to cherish this because these sorts of magical playoff runs, they go by to flash. They do, and you look back and kind of think like, did I appreciate that enough? So appreciate it while we're here. I know we're up against a bit of Goliath. We're not quite a David versus Goliath, but we are big underdogs here, as we were in 2019 in the NBA. So I just hope that we can do ourselves some justice and maybe got a little bit more magic. Look, there's a pathway to getting this series to Game 6. And if you get it to 6, you're at home for one, maybe 2 games. You're at home to finish the series. You got home field advantage. Use it. Right? Get this series back to Toronto. Make sure you play these 2 games. Make sure it comes back to Toronto. Kirk is 5'8", 240. Yeah, he's a big boy, but he's a great defensive catcher at the plate. Does well putting the ball in play. He really he falls over a lot while he's batting because he just has to put so much force into every swing because of just the low center of gravity and the size. But he's a good player. He's a 2-time All-Star, right? You're at home on your couch. I mean, I've seen some amazing moments from my couch. I saw the Kawhi Game 7 shot from my couch with some friends. It doesn't make them any less special. Absolutely. I'm coming to Toronto with a tent on my e-bike if it goes to Game 7. Yesterday morning I was active on Ticketmaster trying to get tickets. I had 4 friends trying to get Game 1 tickets for all of us. My sister was trying to get Game 6 tickets. My dad was trying to get Game 2 tickets. I was trying to get Game 7 tickets. All of my friends failed at getting Game 1 tickets. Obviously not their fault. They were too low in the queue. My dad could not secure Game 2. My sister actually got through for Game 6, but the tickets were like the cheapest tickets, like the worst seats in the building were like $500. I got through right at the end of the availability of Game 7 tickets, and every ticket I tried to add to my cart, like there were a few left by the time I got in, or got snapped up, and now resales like in the thousands for these games. So unfortunately, it very much appears as though I will not be in attendance for the World Series, but that's okay. I got my hat. I got my hat instead, which I'm very happy with. I have the postseason hat as well. I think both of them are great, so I'm excited, no matter what, of course. I was honestly, I actually tried to go to the Rogers Center after Game 7 to just celebrate with people, but I had some friends at the game who I kind of know through work who wanted to meet up after, so didn't end up getting down there. But if they win the World Series, I will be gunning it over to the Rogers Center to celebrate in the streets. So I hope we get to do it. When the Raptors won the chip, I wasn't in Toronto. I was in the GTA, and it was still popping on the streets. So can't even imagine downtown. Gregory says, I was in the streets in 93 when Carter hit the homer. Need to experience it again. Yeah. I have actually a ticket from that game because my parents were at that game, which is pretty sensational. They tell me stories about the streets in 92 when they won the World Series, but 93 they were at the fucking game. I mean, maybe a top 2 most iconic moments in MLB history. There have been 2 walk-off home runs in the history of the World Series, one of which was the Pirates against the Yankees in like the 60s, maybe even earlier. But when it was hit, granted it was a Game 7, but when it was hit, the game was tied. So it wasn't a do-or-die situation there, but it was a Game 7, so it was, in a way, do-or-die. The Jays one was a bit different. They were down at the time Joe Carter hit the home run, but it was a Game 6. So kind of different, but the only walk-off home run in World Series history while the team was trailing when they hit it was Joe Carter 93. My parents and my grandparents were in the building for that. Crazy. My boss was at Game 7 for the Springer home run, and he said he was also there for the Bautista bat flip home run. And he said, from the videos, I thought, didn't get as loud for this one as it did for Bautista. But he said it was louder when Springer hit the home run compared to when both Bautista hit the home run. That was obviously for the ALDS. This was for the ALCS. So, man, crazy. Thomas Perry said, took over the family homestead, 4th generation. Oh, I didn't have the dream. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully some frequent whiskey, from whiskey to end off the days there. Yeah, Bo should be back. I think he said he's good. They're gonna have to kind of think about how they're gonna use him because he did not look healthy at all going into the ALCS. I thought he was pretty far from playing. I thought he actually was gonna miss the World Series if the Jays got there. And the problem is he plays a important position, right? He's playing shortstop, right? You need to be mobile to play that position. So if he can't go defensively, you still want his bat. But if you do want his bat and you make him a DH, you take George Springer out of the DH role, which he has been so fantastic in this season. And you put, he's old and he's not as good of a defender as he used to be. So you put him in the outfield, and then you lose one of your very big strong suits this season, which has been your defense in the outfield, by putting Springer in there. You upgrade at the plate, but you do diminish what you can do defensively. I think that change is worth it because, like, the Dodgers haven't been lighting teams up at the plate. They have been shutting teams down at the mound. So you want as many good bats in as you can. Bo Bichette, if he had been healthy, would have led the American League in hits again. So I think you got to get that in any way you can, but it's just something to think about with the defensive side of the ball. Winner One says, my dad was 17 when the Jays won the World Series in 93. Now I'm 17, and now we're in the World Series again. Full circle. That's really cool. Hopefully they can do it. I'm pumped. Hence why we're gonna have a maybe a watch song cut short for the Friday Raptors game because I mean, it's special to have a championship series being played in Canada, especially Game 1. So that's what we got to do. All right, guys, let's dial in to the Raptors content here. Let's dial in for the Raptors content. All right. So, like I said, Friday, game has been changed. Will they change? Game has been changed. Some of the scheduling has been changed because the Friday game is now going to be played at 6:30 against the Milwaukee Bucks. So I'll be live at 6 for that game, or 6:15 for that game. And Blue Jays game starts at 8. So I may dip out of stream early because I want to catch that. I may do the whole stream, but I'm definitely going to do the start of the stream. But just think about that. But it is very cool, I think, that the Raptors are doing that and are letting fans have a better opportunity to experience the World Series because it is big. And I think that other teams would do the same for them. So that was great. Alandar went to the Rogers Center after the game. I thought about it. I didn't end up getting all the way there, but I did. I partied near the Rogers Center and still had a fun night. So it was still all good. All the Raptors, though. Let's get into the nitty gritty. About damn time, huh? I wanted to kind of go through the sentiment surrounding the Toronto Raptors as we approach the upcoming season. You know, what are people saying about the Raptors? How is the media feeling? How good do they expect this Raptors team to be? How bad, potentially, do they expect this Raptors team to be? We're going to cover all of that here, and then I'll kind of provide what I think is the upper end of what they could realistically achieve, the lower end of what they could realistically achieve and what you should reasonably be expecting them to achieve. So the sources that I have for this, I found an article from CBS Sports. I found actually a post on the NBA subreddit, which I found really interesting and do want to kind of go through. I also found a post on Bleacher Report. So we're going to kind of gauge the sentiment surrounding where people think the Raptors will be finishing this season. So we'll get started with CBS Sports, who have their expert picks for the full standings of the season and 2026 NBA Finals, which, granted, the Raptors are not included in for the finals, I think, rightfully so. But here we go. We've got 7 guys representing CBS Sports, providing where they think the Raptors will be finishing. 6 out of 7 of them actually have the Cavaliers finishing top of the Eastern Conference, which I think is the correct pick. And we have one guy here, Colin, going with Cavs 3rd, Knicks 1st, which, hey, hot take, bold take, but it is what it is. Now for the Raptors. We got our man James throwing the Raptors in 7th. That is the highest the Raptors are positioned on this list. We have a couple of them putting the Raptors at 9th. And then more than half of them, 4 out of 7 of them, have the Raptors at 11th, actually, and missing the play-in tournament altogether. Now, this is just one source, of course, but I have to disagree with this list. I think that the Raptors are at least a play-in team. I think that realistically this team is going to be at least a play-in team. Now, we're going to talk about the lower end of what they could achieve, and absolutely the lower end of a season is not making even the play-in tournament. But for the Raptors to completely miss out on the play-in, I think there'd have to be a lot of other teams who have upper end sort of seasons. Like, I think the Sixers, I think like the obvious ones to finish ahead of the Raptors are the Knicks, Magic, Cavs, Pistons, Bucks, Hawks. But after that, I don't think that there are any other obvious teams to finish above them. I mean, I don't even know if the Bucks are that obvious considering the state of their team. But I think the Raptors will finish better than the Heat. I think they will finish better than the Pacers. I think they can finish better than the Sixers. I think they can finish better than the Celtics. I think they will finish better than the Bulls. So I think it'd have to be a pretty drastic season, a pretty unlikely season for them to be thwarted completely for a play-in tournament position. So I don't necessarily agree with that. But again, the point of kind of showcasing this to you guys is that the sentiment seems to be that this is not going to be, or this is not going to be as easy of a play-in tournament berth as I think and many others think it'll be. And there are quite a few Raptors fans out there thinking it should be easy getting up to the 8 or 7 seed, maybe even the top 6 seed. So here we have a post from the NBA subreddit, which I did kind of want to discuss with you guys here. So this one is a little bit more difficult because these are only power ranking the top 8 teams in the conference. But I kind of wanted to go through how many of them actually decided to go with the Raptors as a top 8 team in the East to see maybe what the sentiment is there, because I think media is maybe a little bit more likely to doubt the Raptors, but I think like some more respectable, level-headed analytic statistician guys that you could see in this subreddit will put the Raptors higher. Let's actually get this into light mode to make it a little bit easier to see as I share it with you guys on the screen. So here it is for Western Conference, but let's go to the Eastern Conference. So we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 25, about 30 different people who are power ranking the teams in the Eastern Conference. And the Toronto Raptors appear, let's see how many times the Raptors appear on this list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 times in this scenario, we have the Raptors finishing in the top 8 of the Eastern Conference. Actually, based on this, there's actually 27 people doing this. So in 9 of the 27, that's 33% of the time in this list, the Raptors are listed as a top 8 seed. In fact, on one of the occasions, actually 2 of the occasions, the Raptors are actually listed as a team that could finish in the top 6 and get an immediate berth into the playoffs. So, it has it down here. 9 times in the top 8, 3 times the 8 seed, 2 times the 7 seed, 4 times the 8 seed, 3 times the 7 seed, and 2 times as the 6 seed. So for people with maybe a little bit more, I would say, like, the American media can be a little bit biased against the Raptors at times. For maybe people who have a little bit less bias, there seems to be like a better belief the Raptors can be an upper end play-in tournament team and even go as far as the 6 seed. But still, like, that still kind of showcases to me that the bigger belief is that this is a 9 or 10 seed and a team that has to win 2 games in a row to make the play-in tournament. Then we shift our focus now to the Bleacher Report article that I'm going to pull up here, which talks about teams actually and their projected record for the upcoming season. So important to note about Bleacher Report is that these articles are written often by freelancers, so it's not exactly always a representation of Bleacher Report. Having worked for Bleacher Report previously, doing some freelance content, it's not always necessarily a reflection of the brand and their opinions. It's just a specific person that they have brought on to write the article. So we have talked about an article that had criminally underrated the Raptors. Now we have one from a user or an author called Grant Hughes, and he actually goes with the Raptors in a 41-41 record, which I think is right about correct for this team. Their win projection based on the betting odds has actually continued to go up through the offseason. It started at 32.5 and it's just climbed and climbed and climbed. I saw it even as high as 40.5, and I've seen around 39.5. So it's typically juiced towards the over at 39.5, juiced towards the under at 40.5. So the expectation is 40 wins for this Raptors team. I don't think there's quite a position to bet that, but if I did have to bet a side, I would bet the over. I think the Raptors will have maybe a couple wins over that. I think it's more likely to go over for the Raptors on that one. Maybe not enough though to actually want to go through with a bet, because there were better numbers previously, like I said, with this one continuing to climb. So let's look at how the standings shaked out for last season and how many wins they Raptors would need, how many 41 wins, what position 41 wins would get them this season. So last season, 41 wins would have gotten you a 7 seed. It would have gotten you a home seed for the play-in tournament first round win, and you are in. If you lose, you still have another home game to try and get into the play-in tournament with your second chance finishing as the 8 seed. So perhaps the Raptors, what it's going to take here, I don't think there'll be this many wins going around the East this season. So I think even 42, 43, 44 games could be enough to actually get them to a top 6 seed. So I think it's completely realistic for the team to actually do that. So let's kind of gauge what would be the higher end season for this team realistically, the lower end for this team realistically, and then what should be expected. I think I'll give the Raptors, I think like the middle of the road for this team. I think it's like a dead even team. I think 41-41 is kind of correct there. And I think the middle sort of median season for the Raptors is a 7 or 8 seed. I think that's what they should be accomplishing this season. I think they'll be able to get into the playoffs from that route. An upper end season for me, realistically, is this team kind of sneaking its way up to 46 wins. Probably finishing as a 6 seed, maybe even scumming themselves into a 5 seed there. I can't really see a realistic way the Raptors climb up to a top 4 seed and get a home playoff seed in the first round. That seemed a little bit too far for me. But also, things could really not click, and this could be a team that kind of falls a little bit lower than that in what a lesser season could be realistically. And I think that probably trends towards this team just not really clicking on the floor, winning maybe 35 to 37 games. And in that scenario, that could be a team that misses out on the play-in tournament. But, I mean, just the state of the Eastern Conference, I think they're auto better than the Nets and Wizards. Those are the 2 worst teams. I think they're comfortably better than the Hornets, which at minimum now puts them as a 12 seed. And I think they're good enough. I really do believe they are good enough to be better than the Bulls, which puts them to 11. And then I think that they have a good chance to be better than the Heat as well. A pretty solid chance to be better than the Heat, maybe even the Pacers, maybe even the Sixers, maybe even the Celtics with the way their team is looking this season. So for me, play-in tournament should be where this team finishes. I think very strong case to say that. Hopefully it's upper end of the play-in term, but hey, even more hopefully, let's hope that this is a one of those higher realistic seasons, or maybe even better for this team. We can go even further, get ourselves locked into a playoff spot without the mystery that comes with that play-in tournament. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. Where do you see the Raptors finishing? What is the upper level, lower level, and average level for the expectations? The sentiment online is from Raptors fans is I've seen a lot of people saying like this is gonna be this got to be a top 6 seed, but I think that's really the upper level of what they could achieve. Winner one said we need to make playoffs with all the money we pay these guys. Completely agree with you. The Flash B says can't see them missing the 7-8 seed barring major injuries and considering the state of the East last year. I could see it. I don't think they're gonna finish outside the top 10 though, but I could see them finishing 9 or 10. I've seen so many people on Twitter projecting us to have around 25 wins. You know, the great thing about like egregiously bad takes like that is just the Raptors win total is 40.5 in places. If you think they're going to win 25 games, you should be smashing the under. Like you can win money based on your opinion of sports, right? You probably won't, but 25.5 is just so far lower than what. Like, if you said, like, I think they're like a 35-win team, sure. But 25 is just, like, an egregiously bad take. Isaac says, 82-0 on the way. Let's hope, man. I've got my mind off baseball and onto basketball. But how? I've got to get my mind off baseball and onto basketball. How? You don't have to, man. Just continue to enjoy the ride of baseball. And, basketball is the gravy that comes with it. A little bit of extra stuff for you on the off days. MLB times NBA Toronto sports be going crazy. Got my mind bogged. Yeah, it is tough. I mean, it's tough on my watch long schedule, as I said, but doing my best. Did you watch Artie's most recent media? He said, "I have no ego. Without ego, he's so good for this team." I think. Well, I never thought he had an ego. I think he's done a great job of embracing like his role and maybe a bit of a more diminished role this season. I think he's been very graceful in that. So I think he's fitting. I think like he brings good stuff to the team. I just don't think the fit is fantastic. Maybe not quite his fault, but I really like his attitude going into the season for sure. Winner one says it could be him throwing shade at the Knicks there. Were there egos on that Knicks team? I mean, maybe a little bit Julius Randle at the time. I'm not sure. It didn't feel like it. It felt like that was a team that really banded together well. Andrew said, with Tyler Hero being out for the first 2 months of the season, they might pull the plug early this season because he's a stacked draft class. Yeah, I guess they could. That Heat team is pretty bad. You're right. That Heat team is kind of bad. I don't know how they're going to score consistently. So that's true. Raptors should be able to finish above the Heat in that case. Adding an all-star caliber player who can play in practically any system to your team, someone makes them win less games. Yeah, I mean, they're going to, they better get more than 30 wins, right? They better get more than 30 wins. Fire everyone if they finish under 30 wins. For sure. Barring, like, injuries and stuff. But they accidentally won 30 games last season in the end. And then just added Brandon Ingram to that team. I think they're going to be a little bit better. Because they're actually trying to win, I think, this year. And they added a top 10 pick to go with it, too. Yeah, absolutely. Nick Kelly says 4-8. Man, if they finish fourth, we should... I'll organize a parade if we can finish top 4. I'll do it. We deserve it if this team gets top 4. That'd be awesome. Obito says 5th seed. I'd be close to throwing a parade there. Andrew does remind us, though, first 10 games likely will be tough. So, um, need to come out the gate strong and set the tone for the season. All right. We'll shift gears now. Let's get into some possible trade candidates for the season because we saw with media availability, Bobby Webster said that there is a 0% chance that this team stays the same by the end of the season. Now, I don't know if he meant, waiving guys like Ulrich Shamsay. I think what he meant was we're likely to see a trade at some point this season. So I want to talk about the 3 players I think are the most likely to be on the move this season, what those trades could possibly look like, and why the team would want to do that. So for starters, I think like the obvious candidate for the Raptors to move someone is Ochai Agbaji. Now this is unfortunate because the Raptors are slightly over the luxury tax threshold right now. Now, granted, Rodgers can afford it. It's just for a team that's likely not to be a contender this season, I don't really think they're going to want to be paying in the luxury tax at all. And the easiest way to duck out of the tax is by trading, unfortunately, Agbaji. Here we can kind of look at the salaries currently for the team and where the easiest player comes to trade. Like, it's obviously not easy to trade some of these bigger contracts. If you come to these lower contracts, Grady Dick, there's probably still belief in. Colin Murray-Bowles, the rookie. Jacoby Walter, he's only going into his second year. Mamu, you just signed and kind of need that role. And, I guess you could trade Temple. I don't know who would want him. I guess you could trade Mobile, but I don't really know who would want him. And same for Jamal Shed and Jamison Battle. I'd say Jamal Shed don't really want to trade anyways. The most obvious candidate to trade, especially knowing the situation here, is Agbaji because he has no money for the 26-27 season because the contract expires at the end of the season. So the difficulty is that Agbaji, I really like what Agbaji brings to the team. I think Agbaji is a good player, and I think he brings something the Raptors don't have enough of. He brings good shooting, and he brings good defense. Like, oftentimes last season, he was the defensive stopper and, like, the only one that this team has. We got better defensively, so maybe there's less of a need for that, but there is a need for his shooting. Like, when he came to the Raptors after getting traded from the Jazz, he was really bad from 3, but he stepped up big time last season, took 4 threes a game after the previous 2 seasons averaging 2.7 attempts per game. Went up to 4 attempts per game, knocked down just under 40% of those, was one of the best corner shooters in the NBA, and brought defense along with that. Like, you have a young player who is good on defense and good at shooting threes. Like, there should be somebody you absolutely want to keep a hold of. It's just the easiest player to move on from because of that expiring contract, and you don't want to have to pay him in the offseason because he probably is going to go for a little bit more. What that trade looks like, it's probably a super cheap contract, and it's probably the Raptors getting off of that salary a little bit and bringing in maybe a second-round pick to make it happen. It's not going to be a trade that brings back anything really, I don't believe, of significance. That Agbaji trade is more so going to be the Raptors just getting off the salary and maybe picking up a second-round pick in order to do that. So that's unfortunate. He's an unfortunate casualty to this expensive roster because they are over the tax and he is the easiest player to trade. But I think there will be teams decently interested in him for the rest of the season because I do think he brings some good play. Everybody needs shooting and defense, and he does a decent job at both of those things. Second player who is a big trade candidate this season it's obviously R.J. Barrett. Difficult situation in regards to R.J. Barrett's contract right now because on the books for $27.7 million, is eligible for an extension at the end of the season, and then he's got still $29.6 million for next season. A bit expensive, but, I mean, some people see that it's not even $30 million. How is that expensive? It's definitely expensive in relation to where the NBA thinks he is. We go back to the trade deadline in 2025. The Raptors tried to trade R.J. Barrett in the Brandon Ingram trade, but the New Orleans Pelicans valued the expiring contracts of Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk more so than having to take on R.J. Barrett for the 2 years after that as well. They wanted an expiring salary instead. It's a testament certainly to the position that the Pelicans were in at the time. They're a tanking team that is probably not going to be great this season either. But it's also a little bit of a testament to that they didn't really value R.J. Barrett for that contract, or potentially even for his on-court play to match that contract, which is a little bit of a shame. So R.J., I mean, we saw in the offseason all the news around it. R.J. Barrett, his representatives know that he is going to be in a lot of trade discussions throughout the season. But the problem for any R.J. Barrett trade is that the Raptors, as much as you can argue like it's not a fantastic fit with R.J. Barrett, the Raptors want to be a winning team. They want to get into the playoffs this season. Any trade that they make that includes R.J. Barrett is not going to fix the fit issues. It's not going to bring in spacing or shooting, because I don't see why any team would sacrifice quality spacing, shooting, and maybe even defense for R.J. Barrett, who doesn't really provide either of those things to a super high level. So if the Raptors were to trade R.J. Barrett, you look at that Ingram style trade, he would have been utilized essentially as salary filler for Brandon Ingram. So any trade that happens wouldn't be bringing back really significant pieces to this team likely. Now, if Bobby Webster can make it happen, big round of applause for him. I just don't really see that happening. So I think he will be a big trade candidate. I just don't really see him getting traded, because at the end of the day, if the Raptors are trying to win games, they are better off having R.J. Barrett, who is a good player and can help them win games, rather than just getting off of his salary. Now, if the motivation for the team changes and they just really want to get off his contract and are willing to kind of dump him somewhere else to do that and take back whatever to make it happen, the team will get worse, but that might be their priority, just to get off that contract. But I think they're better suited kind of using it as expiring salary next season. Look, this is the bed you made. You've got to sleep in it here. You traded for him. You knew the risks associated with that. At the end of the day, like I said, he's still a good player. So I think right now you should just keep him unless a really good trade arises up. I don't see even like a good trade arising up. So I think in the end he probably will just end up staying. Tough one there. A few people in chat actually say some pretty good points here, that trade to the Lakers would be an interesting one. Yeah, I think they're lacking in the wing spots, and that would be a good pickup. So I agree with Ryan K and Andrew and the Flash B on that one. Lakers seems to be a pretty good call there. The last player I want to go over here. Would I trade RJ and 2 first for Lauri Markkanen? I'm not sure Markkanen would actually be an interesting one there. I'm not sure if Markkanen would be the right piece there. I think it depends a little bit more on how Markkanen plays this season, because you had a not so great season last year. If we're trending back towards like all-star Markkanen, which then maybe even increases value, the trade doesn't happen, but Markkanen would be an interesting one where Jazz kind of want to move off of him. They can get some assets to do it. The Raptors want to move off of Barrett and might improve by making that trade. So that would be actually an interesting one where the Raptors actually can get the shooting they need, and it would just cost a little bit to make it happen. So if there's belief in this team, I could support that sort of trade for Markkanen if the Jazz would want to go for it. But more salary would have to be outgoing for the Raptors as well, because Markkanen is making a lot more money than RJ Barrett is. We'll shift into the last player I want to talk about here. And actually, I'm going to throw you a curveball here, because really, I don't expect him to get traded. But I think if I had to pick a third player, I would still keep an eye on a possible Grady Dick trade. Like, he's in the third year. He's in his third-year player. I don't think he'll get traded, but he's extension eligible at the end of the season, and there's still just a degree of question marks about him as a player. 14.4 points per game last season, yes, but the 3% at 35 kind of leaves a touch to be desired, because he's supposed to be a better shooter than that. Still young, and efficiency often comes with age. But I think that there is a reality where Grady Dick has kind of moved as an enticing piece alongside somebody else in a trade. And I think what would make this happen is if the play of Jacoby Walter surpasses Grady Dick, and it kind of gets to the point where, well, I'd rather be giving Jacoby those minutes that Grady Dick is getting. And Grady Dick could become a little bit easier to trade. So I would kind of look out for that. It won't be the same, but could be similar to the situation we saw last year, where there was a fight for a spot between David Mitchell and Jamal Shed. In the end, the Raptors preferred to play Jamal Shed, preferred maybe even preferred him as a player, but at least preferred to give him development reps over Davion Mitchell. Could we see a situation like that arise with Grady Dick and Jacoby Walter? I think that's a possibility to look at. Phoenix says 20% chance he gets moved. Yeah, I think that's about the maybe even like 15%, but I think like around that number is something to just keep in the back of your mind as we go through this season. Those are the three I think most likely players get to trade. I think Abaji is like well above a 50% chance to get traded. I think Barrett is about a 50% chance, maybe slightly lower. And I think Grady Dick around 15 to 20%. Those are just some names to keep an eye on for sure. I maybe was thinking about like Jakob Poeltl as well, but I don't think anybody's going to take on the extended length of that contract, and I think the Raptors really value his presence on the team, so I don't think he'll get traded. I really don't. I think Grady Dick has a better chance to get traded there. Dennis says they had the same numbers, stats. You guys have no idea about basketball. I don't know what this is talking about. RJ led the team in scoring since being in Toronto. You guys better trade Scotty Barnes. Barnes, I mean, it's the first year of a max contract. I think that's extraordinarily difficult to trade if they do feel like at some point they want to move him. But I don't think the conversation of trading Barnes happens this season at all. Like in the worst case scenario, if he's really bad this season, the earliest a talk like that would show up is next summer. No way it would happen during the season. Definitely don't believe that's the case. I would think that the Barrett and trade or a buy trade would happen before the franchise trades a third-year player who has shown a lot of progress. I agree. I mean, like I said, he's third on my list of players that could get traded there. Dennis want to say Brandon Ingram and Artie Barrett's numbers are pretty much the same. Well, the NBA is not played purely with numbers. There's a lot more that goes into those numbers and understanding those numbers. Brandon Ingram's more efficient than Barrett, for example. Brandon Ingram's ability to create offense for himself is superior to that of RJ Barrett. So Brandon Ingram provides more spacing to the team. So those sort of factors go into it beyond just the blanket like points per game sort of statistics. It's play styles. RJ Barrett's play style doesn't necessarily suit the modern NBA and winning in the modern NBA, unfortunately. So that's why these conversations are coming up. And I mean, it's not like I'm giving you some hot take here. Like there are widespread reports that the Raptors are going to be shopping RJ Barrett this season. So it's not like it's some hot take that I've created out of thin air. All right, guys, to finish off the show, let's get you set for the Raptors against the Atlanta Hawks. So, start of the season, and I think it's a tough test for this Raptors team, unfortunately, actually. The Atlanta Hawks, I think, have had a terrific offseason. They've brought in Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who is a fantastic pickup. I really respect Nickeil as a role player, good shooter, good defender. I really like the acquisition of Kristaps Porzingis. I don't think he's completely cooked. I think he's still a very talented player. And they made a really good trade at the draft. They moved back to like 22nd, picked up Newell, and got the Pelicans pick for next season. Jalen Johnson's returning from injury. He's amazing. I think he's got all-star potential this season. And Trae Young, I think, is very much respected, but I still think he's a little bit underrated as well. Because he is. I think that him on his own is just a complete offensive engine that can make your team have a good offense. I know there's deficiencies defensively, but beyond Trae Young on defense, there's so many long, athletic defenders and defenders like Dyson Daniels. Like, there's so much talent on this team defensively. There's so much size that this is probably going to be a problem matchup for the Raptors. We saw in preseason, we've talked about it on the channel, that when you have like most of the starters out for the Raptors, you can play drop coverage on Scotty Barnes. You can sag off of Jakob Poeltl in the paint. There's a lot of congestion in the paint areas, and the Atlanta Hawks have enough size to really make it difficult for the Raptors to score. And I think that this is one where, RJ Barrett kind of thrives in games against teams that don't have great rim protection. But I think the Hawks will have pretty good rim protection this year. So I think a lot of the offense and the success tonight, I think a lot of it will come from Emmanuel Quickley because he has the Trae Young matchup and because you're going to see a lot of drop coverage from the Hawks. Quickley's got to take 10 threes tonight. He's got to get up to there. I think he should start to average above 9 attempts per game this season. I think he should be taking at least 10 tonight. I think we should be pushing for a lot of pull-up threes for Emmanuel Quickley, but it's going to be a difficult matchup, and it's going to be even more difficult if we're not getting the most out of Emmanuel Quickley there. Lean on Brandon Ingram's kind of isolation scoring. Lean on Emmanuel Quickley's pull-up shooting. I think that's the strat for the Raptors. And beyond that, the Hawks are a good team. It's in Atlanta. Gamble on possession battle. The Raptors are very good at forcing turnovers. Great. Let's continue to work with that. But let's also crash the glass on offense and manufacture extra possessions out of that. Play the numbers game there. Get those extra possessions. And I think that's the pathway to victory here. I think, unfortunately, I unfortunately believe the Hawks will win this game. They are 5.5-point favorites. But I hope the Raptors can surprise, win this game, and like I said, that is the pathway to victory. Unfortunately for the Raptors as well, a couple bodies missing. There's going to be no Colin Murray-Boyles or Jacoby Walter. Colin Murray-Boyles has dealt with quite a few injuries in the offseason, so hopefully that's not a trend that continues, but he's going to miss this season opener here, the right forearm muscle strain, and Jacoby Walter is just going to simply miss this one through illness. So what does that mean for the rotation? Jonathan Mobo likely gets a good chunk of play time, an opportunity for him to kind of show what he can do, and might even mean some minutes for Jamison Battle. We'll see. And I think that'll be some key minutes for Jamison Battle because we will need some shooting today to help alleviate the congestion in the paint that the Atlanta Hawks could kind of impose on the Raptor. But let's end off with this. Score predictions. Who do you think will win? Will the Raptors do it? What do you guys think in the chat? Let me know. As you guys are typing that in, remember to hit the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel. If you're new, I'm live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern time for streams like this. Unfortunately, I'm missing the stream tonight. No watch along tonight. I can't do it. I tried, but I can't do it. Friday, I'll be live at least for the start of the game before the World Series Game 1. So just stay tuned for more content. But you'll almost always have the Raptors Happy Hour at 5 p.m. Eastern. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Keep up with all of that great content. Andrew says 111-104 Toronto W. I hope so. Start the season off on the right foot. I unfortunately can't quite buy into a Raptors prediction win, but I hope I'm wrong. Like I said earlier, come back, prove me wrong, Raptors. But I think Emmanuel Quickley game. I think we gotta get an Emmanuel Quickley game out of this one today. Please, Emmanuel. Please do it for us. You can catch me. I was live with Kyle Kerms last night. You can catch that with the link that's pinned at the top of chat. You can check out the merch with the links in the description and all the other stuff. There's a ton of links in the description you can check out to support the channel. But all right, guys. Your Raptors Happy Hour has concluded. Again, I appreciate all of you for supporting. If you're just joining us now, I went over it earlier. New name change to the channel. Essentially, I want the vibe of the channels, the vibe as the channel's presented to be a little bit more professional in relation to if I'm doing collaborations, if I'm possibly working with any brands in the future, hopefully sponsor me, somebody. If I'm just using this channel to showcase my profile as a content creator, I decided that there's going to be a transition towards this being the Jacob Gramegna channel more so than amateur sports. But the content is still amateur sports. The name just may change for visual presenting purposes. For, what's the term? I don't know. You know what I mean, hopefully. Professional hour sports. Professional amateur sports, no. I know, I've been wanting to do it for a while, and I decided yesterday that it was time. It was time. So hopefully you guys still rock with me. Hopefully you guys still support. And I appreciate y'all. I'm heading out. Drop a like on your way out. And let's go Raptors. I'll see you guys on Friday for the Friday.